Recently, we witnessed one of the most heart-thumping, adrenaline-pumping, edge-of-your-seat spectacles of American racing, the Daytona 500. This event is the Super Bowl of car racing, making it one of the most attended and highly rated sporting events in America. Its popularity is justified. 40 cars, each pushing over 200 miles per hour, racing across 200 miles of that iconic 2.5-mile tri-oval track. The best 3 hours of sports to witness. The drivers take part in this race for the adrenaline, yes, but also for the big check. In this video, we'll reveal how much Daytona 500 winners make. But before that, have you ever wondered why it's the Daytona 500 and not the Daytona 300 or Daytona whatever? Let us tell you the reason. Why is it called the Daytona 500? The origins of the Daytona 500 trace back to 1936. The first race took place at Daytona Beach in Florida. At that time, it was a simple yet daring race course that stretched 2 miles down the paved A1A highway. Then it took a U-turn onto the hard-packed sands of Daytona Beach, another 2 miles up the shore, and then there was the final U-turn to start the loop all over again. So like most other NASCAR races, this race was named after its location, Daytona, and length 500 miles. Daytona's Sand Beach in Florida was a perfect location in 1936 for the race because it acted as a natural concrete by providing a firm track that cars could speed over without fear of sinking. Back then, Daytona Beach was already famous for its land speed records, but the city's first official beach race turned out to be a bit of a flop. Because of the race day, thousands had camped out overnight to watch the spectacular event. The officials had no proper system of selling tickets to camped-out spectators, and the race itself had to be cut short because of a high tide that came a tad earlier than expected. The organizers suffered a big loss that year. But then, along came Bill France. Bill France was a racer himself in that initial debacle. He would later become the founder of NASCAR. France saw potential in the initial Daytona 500. Everyone else wanted to ditch the idea of holding the race again due to the huge financial loss, but France took over the project himself. With a bit of tweaking here and some adjustments there, he managed to turn the race around. By his third attempt, not only did he break even, but he also began to see profits. And just like that, the Daytona Beach race carved its place in American racing history and continued as an annual event. The only time this annual event was not organized was during World War II. However, the post-war boom brought it roaring back to life. Veterans who were now back home wanted a new kind of thrill, and so they found their answer in racing. It became a time of innovation, which pushed boundaries, both on and off the track. And at the heart of this revival was Bill France, a visionary who dreamed of a united racing front under one governing body, NASCAR. He founded NASCAR in 1948, and since then the Daytona 500 has been held by its officials. NASCAR's early years on the sands of Daytona were nothing short of legendary. They serve as a proving ground for the sport's first superstars, like Curtis Turner, Joe Weatherly, and Junior Johnson. They became the stuff of racing lore. After witnessing the climbing successes, Bill France thought of improving the event. He dreamt of something bigger, bolder, and faster, a track that would eclipse all others. This is when he thought of constructing the Daytona International Speedway. This speedway was constructed with unique 31-degree embankments and a width of 40 feet. At the end of its construction, it turned out to be a complete marvel. And at the center of this track is Lake Lloyd, which quickly became part of the Speedway's charm. The Speedway's inaugural race was held in 1959. It was a spectacle unlike any other, which drew fans from across the nation to witness the birth of a legend. In this race, Lee Petty emerged victorious, and the race was so exciting and energetic that it cemented the Daytona 500's place in the annals of racing history. And so, the Daytona 500 became a legend, a yearly pilgrimage for racing enthusiasts. And who made it that way? Not the organizers, but its winners. Winners and fortunes. During the 60s and 70s, the Daytona 500 was dominated by legends like Mario Andretti, A.J. Foyt, and Richard Petty. These racers were the superstars of the track, especially Richard Petty. He practically owned the Daytona 500, winning it 7 times. All the races that he was part of became spectacular events, especially the 1979 race, which was the first to be broadcast live on national television. This race was historic, not just for Petty's win, but for the epic showdown between Donnie Allison and Cale Yarborough, which ended in a fist fight. This incident made it to the headlines, yes, but it also started a tradition of intense, on-track rivalries that the fans couldn't get enough of. Petty's dominance in the Daytona 500, with his 7 victories and 200 overall Cup wins, set a standard that's still unbeatable. No one has won the Daytona 500 more times than he did. By the time he retired, he had a net worth of $65 million. But his legacy didn't end with his retirement. His family had already opened the Petty Museum in 1988. They opened this place to celebrate this NASCAR legend and his many victories. The inauguration of this museum made sure everyone knew Richard was not the only Petty winning championships. Oh no, this love for racing was in the family's blood. It started with his dad, then his brother joined the sport, followed by his cousin. The tradition even continues today. NASCAR has received 4 generations of racers from this family. In the museum, the Petty family has displayed classic cars driven by its racers and a whole lot more. Other than that, there's this cool spot for the kids called the Pit Stop, where they get to assemble their dream race cars. Other than this legend, there was Dale Earnhardt, who was called the Intimidator. Earnhardt's reputation went far beyond NASCAR. Despite his fearsome reputation and countless victories, Daytona's grand prize eluded him for 2 decades. It was as if fortune had placed a barrier between Earnhardt and the Daytona 500 trophy. However, in 1998, the stars aligned, and Earnhardt finally claimed his long-coveted victory. It became one of the most celebrated wins in the history of the sport. After this big win, Earnhardt's net worth increased to $70 million. Tragically, just 3 years later, in the 2001 Daytona 500, Earnhardt lost his life while doing the thing he loved the most: racing. In the race's final lap, his car crashed into the outside wall, a moment that would forever change NASCAR. His death prompted a seismic shift towards safety. It led to the mandatory use of the Hans device, the introduction of safer barriers, and the development of the car of tomorrow. Since then, thankfully, the Daytona 500 has seen no other fatalities. Last year's race was totally off the charts, and it was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. who took home the Daytona 500 crown. This was the 65th edition of the race, and it definitely lived up to the hype. How so? Well, the regular 200 laps just didn't declare a winner this time. They had to do the 12th extra lap. Even after the 12th lap, they entered the caution period. They couldn't do another lap, so NASCAR had to roll back the tapes to figure out who crossed the line first. And guess what? Ricky Stenhouse Jr. came out first. In fact, it was his first Daytona 500 win. In this game, Stenhouse defeated Joey Logano in what was an edge-of-your-seat overtime finish right there at Daytona International Speedway. After crossing that finish line, Stenhouse's net worth jumped to $30 million, with a sweet $3 million salary. And just think about his earnings from that race alone. Just wait for a few moments before we reveal the exact number. How much do the winners make? The Daytona 500 always gives a pretty big check to those who conquer the track. The prize money at stake is eye-watering, with a total purse that's grown significantly over the years. And you'll be shocked to hear the numbers. Whatever the purse is every year, it's divided among the winners based on their finishing positions. For example, the winner takes 8 to 9% of that total. The second place winner takes about 6%, and the third place wins 5% of the total purse. NASCAR doesn't usually announce the payouts of its individual winners. It did so last time in 2015. Joey Logano, who was that year's winner, took home $1.58 million, exactly 9% of the purse, which was announced to be $18 million. Kevin Harvick finished second, and he earned $1.15 million. Dale Earnhardt Jr. was third in position. He'd won the race the year before. This time, he took home $857,345. Then in 2020, the purse ballooned to $23.6 million, and the winner's share reached $2.07 million. The exact figures for 2021 and 2022 were not announced, but in 2023, Fox Sports journalist Bob Pockrass revealed that the purse was $26 million, with the winner's cut at about $2.3 million. And you already know the name of the winner. It was Ricky Stenhouse Jr. Before him, Austin Cindric made headlines in 2022 by winning the Daytona 500. It was a remarkable win, given that he was just a rookie back then. He was driving the number 2 Ford Mustang for Team Penske and managed to outperform the defending Cup Series champion, Kyle Larson. Although it was a tough day for Team Penske overall, because the rest of their cars did not finish as expected and ended up in a ball of fire, it turned out to be a great victory for Cindric. Winning the Daytona 500 marked a high point in his career. While the exact amount he earned from the race was not disclosed, his net worth has been estimated at around $1 million following the win. The trend of increasing the purse of the Daytona 500 continued even this year. This year, NASCAR itself has revealed the total purse on its official website. It's announced to be a staggering $28 million. So the winner received around $2.5 million. Quite impressive, right? Now, you must be thinking about how you can win this kind of money. Well, all you have to do is qualify for the Daytona 500. Let us tell you how. Some favorites for this year. As for the favorites this year, the lineup included pro racers like Ryan Blaney, Joey Logano, Brad Keselowski, Denny Hamlin, Chris Buescher, and Chase Elliott. Among them, Joey Logano and Denny Hamlin were particularly the ones to watch. Then there was Shane Van Gisbergen. He was a newcomer from Trackhouse Racing, who's not a full-time Cup Series driver, but's already made it to the headlines by winning the Chicago Street Race. Other than that, we no longer saw Kevin Harvick in this game, as he is already retired. His place was taken by Josh Berry, who carried the weight of expectations in the number 4 Stewart-Haas Racing Ford. Then there was Jimmy Johnson, who's a 7-time NASCAR champion. He returned with a part-time schedule. This year, he was aiming for a 3rd Daytona 500 win. He drove a Toyota for Legacy MC. Unfortunately, 2024 was not his lucky year, and he came 28th. Still, Johnson's participation added some unique kind of excitement to the game, as he was the only person sharing the same title of 7-time champion with the legendary Richard Petty and Dale Earnhardt. The race. The whole event started off on February 14th with the NASCAR Cup Series single-car qualifying. The excitement continued on February 15th with a packed schedule that included ARCA Menard Series and Craftsman Truck Series practices, and then the adrenaline-pumping Blue-Green Vacations Duel 1 and 2. On February 16th, the NASCAR Cup Series took to the track again for another practice session, fine-tuning their cars and strategies. Then, February 17th brought the final practices for the Cup Series, the last chance for teams to make adjustments before the big day. Finally, February 18th was the day all eyes were on the Daytona International Speedway for the NASCAR Cup Series Daytona 500. It was scheduled for 2:30 p.m. ET. However, the event was postponed due to heavy rain, and it was rescheduled to February 19th. This year, as always, the race had 200 laps of non-stop action, heart-stopping moments, and history-making performances. In the end, William Byron won the race, with Alex Bowman just behind him. With this win, William Byron ended his team's 9-year losing streak at the Daytona 500. And what a time to do it! During Hendrick Motorsports' 40th anniversary season, no less. The last time someone from Hendrick took the trophy home from Daytona was back in 2014, and it was Dale Earnhardt Jr. who won it. So yeah, Byron's win was a huge deal for the team and for him personally. After the win, Byron is supposedly going to take home $2.5 million at only 26 years old. Before this, he hadn't done better than coming 21st at the Daytona 500. And the best thing is that he's a self-taught racer. Due to his incredible racing skills, he won 6 races last year. It was his personal best, and he almost grabbed the championship, but he narrowly missed out to Ryan Blaney. This year, however, he did win, and he won it big. Before this epic win, Byron had a net worth of about $2 million. But now, after taking the Daytona 500 crown, it's estimated his net worth could amplify to 24 mil. Overall, the 19th of February and the 66th, the Daytona 500 turned out to be just as exciting as the recent Super Bowl that we witnessed. Do you know how much Super Bowl winners and losers make? Check out our latest video where we revealed the exact amounts. You'll be shocked.